There was a time when Paul Pogba wasn't just a footballer, he was the footballer. The face of a new generation. A world champion. A midfield genius with flair, elegance, and power that made crowds rise to their feet. Pogba wasn't just playing the game. He was redefining it. His return to Manchester United in 2016 felt like the beginning of a dynasty. A record-breaking transfer, a global superstar coming home. A player destined to dominate world football for the next decade. But no one knew that this was the beginning of a journey that would slowly, painfully, and dramatically fall apart. Pogba's story didn't collapse overnight. It crumbled piece by piece, moment by moment, season by season. The pressure of a world record fee, the expectations of millions, the weight of a club drowning in confusion, it all began to suffocate him. He was blamed for losses, criticized for his personality, and targeted by the media for every smile, every hairstyle, every gesture. Pogba's joy, the very fuel that made him unstoppable, slowly began to fade. And behind the scenes, chaos was quietly brewing. Injuries came. Managers changed. Tactics shifted. The club lost identity. Pogba was never given a stable environment or a consistent role. The team around him kept changing, but the expectations on him never did. He became the face of a club that didn't know what direction it wanted to go. But even with all this, Pogba tried to carry on. He tried to fight. He tried to deliver moments of brilliance, and sometimes he did goals, assists, magic. But for every moment of brilliance, there were questions, criticisms, doubts waiting around the corner. And slowly, a superstar who was once full of freedom, joy, and creativity started to look tired, lost, disconnected, as if he was fighting battles no one else could see. This was the beginning, the start of a fall no one expected, the first chapter of what would become the darkest period of Pogba's entire career. While fans and media pointed fingers at Pogba for every problem at Manchester United, the true chaos was happening far away from the cameras. Pogba wasn't just fighting football matches. He was fighting an environment that was breaking him down from the inside. From the moment he returned to Old Trafford, the club was a storm. Different managers, different systems, different expectations, but always the same blame. One season he was a box-to-box powerhouse, the next season a deep playmaker, then suddenly a winger. Pogba wasn't a player being built around. He was a player being tossed around. The dressing room wasn't stable either. Leaders left, personalities clashed, and the club lacked direction. Pogba tried to take responsibility, tried to bring positivity, tried to carry the weight, but every mistake became a headline. Every injury became a debate. Every performance became a war, and behind all of this, his own body was failing him. Injuries came more often. Pressure mounted quicker. Recovery felt slower. The joy he once played with turned into fear. Fear of letting the team down. Fear of being judged. Fear of not being the Pogba the world expected. Then came the tension with the media. Every interview twisted. Every quote magnified. Pogba became an easy target, a talking point for ratings, a name used to fuel controversy. When the team struggled, blame went to him. When results dipped, questions circled him. The chaos wasn't just on the pitch, it was around him, inside him, constantly pulling him down. This was no longer the smiling, dancing, confident Pogba the world loved. This was a player trapped in a storm he never created, and the storm was only getting darker. Paul Pogba's career didn't just fall because of injuries or pressure, it fell because of the battles that no one could see. Battles inside his family, battles with the people he trusted the most, and battles within himself. The first cracks appeared when his longtime agent, Mino Raiola, the man who guided him, protected him, and believed in him, passed away. Pogba didn't just lose his agent. He lost a brother, a shield, a voice that fought for him when the world pointed fingers. Without Raiola, Pogba suddenly felt exposed, alone in a game that had always felt like home. Then came the shocking betrayal from within his own circle, a scandal involving extortion attempts, threats, and people from his past trying to use his success against him. Pogba wasn't just hurt, he was heartbroken. For a man who always valued family, trust, and loyalty, this was the deepest wound of all. The problems didn't stop there. False stories spread. Media pressure rose. Every personal issue was twisted into entertainment. Pogba's image wasn't just damaged, it was attacked. He became a target for criticism, mockery, and negativity, even when he stayed silent. And in the middle of this emotional chaos, his body continued to fail him. More injuries, more rehabilitation, more time away from the pitch. Pogba felt the game slipping from his hands, even while he fought desperately to hold on. For the first time in his career, Pogba wasn't fighting defenders. He was fighting life. And slowly, painfully, he reached the breaking point. A moment when the world realized that something far darker was happening behind the smiles. What truth was being hidden? From locker room whispers to training ground tension, the morning at Manchester United's training ground looked completely ordinary. But Sir Jim Ratcliffe noticed something no one else did. A few players' facial expressions, their disrupted body language, and quiet side conversations created a question he couldn't ignore. Is this silence normal? Or is there a storm hiding behind it? Jadon Sancho and a couple of other players were talking away from the main group. Their voices were low, but the tension around them was sharp. From a distance, Jim could see something wasn't right. The training drills began. Some players gave full intensity, while others looked disconnected, almost like they were physically present but mentally miles away. Meanwhile, Erik ten Hag stood with his coaching staff, reviewing tactical concerns and discipline issues. Jim walked over to him with a direct, unfiltered tone. Are you being completely honest with me about what's happening in this squad? For a brief second, everything went silent. Ten Hag paused, then looked straight into Jim's eyes and replied, I've shared everything. But some players are still running away from the truth. That one sentence froze the entire atmosphere. A few players glanced at each other, clearly aware that the internal tension of the dressing room had now spilled onto the pitch. Divisions, ego clashes, broken trust, everything was finally rising to the surface. Jim instantly understood that the issue wasn't just a manager versus player dispute. It was the team's mentality collapsing from inside. He made a firm, immediate decision. Nothing will stay hidden now. Every truth is coming out, because without honesty, Manchester United cannot rise again. In that moment, one thing became clear. The future of the club would now be decided not by talent, but by truth. The confrontation that changed everything. Secrets exposed in the dressing room. After training ended, Sir Jim Ratcliffe didn't wait another second. He called an immediate meeting inside the Manchester United dressing room. The atmosphere was heavy, the kind of silence that comes before a storm. Players walked in slowly, unsure of what was coming, while Ten Hag stood near the tactics board with his arms crossed, expression sharp and unreadable. Once everyone settled, Jim stepped forward. His voice was calm, but his words were explosive. From this moment on, no more games. No more hiding. I want the truth from every single one of you. The sentence echoed through the room. Some players lowered their heads. Others exchanged nervous looks. One or two stared directly at Jim, as if challenging him silently. Jim continued. This club is bigger than your egos, your excuses, and your personal battles. If something is wrong, say it now. Because if you stay quiet today, your silence will become your downfall. Ten Hag then spoke, turning the energy even sharper. A team can handle losing matches, but it cannot survive lies. One player finally broke. He stood up and admitted that the dressing room had been divided for months, cliques forming, messages being shared behind the manager's back, and some players refusing to follow instructions during matches and training sessions. The moment he stopped speaking, the room exploded with reactions: anger, guilt, frustration, disbelief. Jim raised his hand. Instant silence. This ends today, he said firmly. No player, no matter how talented, is bigger than Manchester United. If you want to stay, you give everything. If not, the door is right there. Every player felt the weight of the message. This wasn't just a warning. It was the beginning of a new era, one built on truth, discipline, and fearlessness.